What I want to talk about this evening is just a different kind of aspect of our dynamic duos that, sometimes we just kind of forget about and don't talk about all that much. And that is the need for us to build memories together. I mean, amen for group meetings. Amen for our worship services. Amen for our, all the different things that we do. Maybe those tough talks that you have with each other, those sort of things. Like, amen for all those things. Those are great and very necessary parts of building each other up spiritually. Absolutely. But, when we've always used this term discipling relationship. And I've always thought that the ones that are the most successful in the discipling relationship are the ones that put the emphasis on the word relationship, not necessarily on discipling. In other words, it's a relationship that we have with one another. And part of that relationship is discipling. It's not first and foremost just discipling and let's just, tell each other like it is. And like that's just a part of what our relationship should be all about. And in terms of any good relationship, it just means spending time together. And honestly, it's going to be building a lot of memories. God is a big fan of memories. He's a big, big fan of memories. What do I mean by that? Early on in the scriptures, we read in Genesis chapter 1, there's something called the Sabbath, where God rests on the seventh day. And so sure enough, right when the Ten Commandments come along, the fourth one there is remember the Sabbath. One of the 10 commandments, the big boys there, one of them is just simply to remember. Like, hey, you got to remember. Now, it means God talks about how he'll say to his people, I remember the covenant I made with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. He'll say things like that. Oftentimes, God's people, when they would have a great victory somewhere, they would build an actual altar. An altar building during that time, that was their way of saying, we're going to build a monument or something. We do the same sort of stuff today, right? There's statues of people and famous things. Whenever there's something big that goes on, we kind of build altars, if you will. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but what was the altar built for? A number of reasons, but one of them was so that we remember, so that we tell the stories of how we crossed the Jordan River and made it to the promised land. We're going to build an altar there, and so that we remember these sort of things. In the book of Deuteronomy, and I won't read through all of them, but there are 16 different commands in Deuteronomy that begin with the word remember. You got to remember, and they're like different, right? It's not just like remember Sabbath, remember Passover, remember Sabbath. It's not that. It's remember what I did here, and remember what I did there, and remember this particular time, and remember this particular thing. Remembering is built in to Judaism. Jews to this day still, quote, remember and practice the Sabbath. Jews to this day still, quote, remember and celebrate the Passover. And they talk about the stories. And Jewish people are very, very, very connected to their past because it's part of what the scriptures are all about. Christians to this day, every Sunday, there we are, guys. What are we doing? We're taking communion and we're remembering the death of Jesus. Memories are very, very powerful, and memories are very, very important. And again, in terms of our relationships and in terms of helping each other spiritually and discipling relationships, whatever you want to call them, dynamic duo, all these sort of things, memories are very, very powerful. So we're looking over there at Jose, and I was supposed to be in that room tonight. I got myself in a little bit of trouble tonight. I was supposed to be there. Did you guys cook out the burgers and the dogs? Okay, yeah, that's what you did. So I was going to be there, and I was really fired up about it. And Kareen's like, I was like, oh, I'm going to head over to Jose's. And she's like, it's the last day of school. And I went, oh, yeah. So the painters do this thing. So the last day of school, what we did, it made a lot more sense when the kids were little. Now it's just a bunch of pain right now, but that I'm feeling. But anyway, what we do for dinner on the last day of school is we just get ice cream. And we get toppings, and we get whipped cream, and M&Ms and whatever, and it's just kind of a build your own Sunday, and that's dinner, which 10 years ago was really good. I'm feeling it right now. I'm somewhere between needing to use the bathroom and needing a nap. I ate mine about 6:30. I'm struggling right now, but anyway, I had a little sugar overload. But I was like, Jose, I can't come. I almost forgot. Well, I did forget, but this is one of the things that the Painter family does. Last day of school, we're getting ice cream, so that's exactly what we did. But those sort of things are important, like just in your families, having those memory making type of times are very, very good. Those little traditions, all that sort of stuff. We're excited. We're actually going to go away for vacation now that quarantine is up, and we're heading back to good old Massachusetts and going to go hang out with Caswells. And I can tell you there will be many memories shared during the week that we're over at the Caswells house. That's going to be a lot of fun. And I think within this church, we've built a lot of memories together, whether it's, John Fowler walking around in his underwear for an entire weekend during the men's retreat. I probably should cut that from the online thing, or maybe I had this in the back of my Bible from the other week. But this group, there's plenty of stories from this particular group. It's just good, and it's very natural for brothers to just build memories together. Some memories are going to be very accidental, John walking around in his underwear, and some are very purposeful, because I think part of it, part of building memories is you got to make the opportunity to build those memories. And so we do have a dynamic duo share. I think I gave him about an hour or two of lead time because I thought, oh, actually, this would fit in perfectly. But I'm going to hand it over. I got the yes from Vince. I don't know if I got it from Dale, so we'll see if Dale wants to speak. But I'm going to have Vince and Dale share. And specifically, these guys go camping every Memorial Day weekend with the families. And so I just asked those guys just to share a little bit, not necessarily details of the trip, but just more of like, why is it important that you guys do this every year? What's that really mean to you? And so with that, Jane, I probably should have given you a heads up on that as well. But if we can cut over to, we'll start with Vince and we'll see if Dale hops in.
Go, Vince.
Okay. Can I? Okay. Yeah. Everybody, I guess you're hearing me. Yes. No.
I'm hearing you. I was seeing.
Oh, okay.
Here you are. Now we're good.
Okay. Excellent. Yeah. It's I think wow, years ago, anybody that's been around a while basically started camping with Ray and Luann. And Dale and Barb moved to Cleveland when the church got planted, and they started. So they were already married when they got here, but so they were camping with Ray and Luann. Then once Robin and I got married, we started camping with them, and so it's been 25 years. Outside of COVID 2020. And then my parents passed away in 2019. 2018 was Nicole's graduation, and that fell on Memorial Day weekend. Outside of those 3 years, we've camped probably every Memorial Day weekend together. And when the kids were little, like Ryan was saying, you have tradition. I mean, we went every Memorial Day, probably every July 4th, and every Labor Day weekend. It morphed from camping in Ohio, different state parks, to taking vacations together up in Michigan, doing camping up there. But I agree. I think it's 1 Thessalonians 2:8 jumped out at me as Ryan began talking tonight. It says, "We loved you so much that we were delighted to share with you not only the gospel of God, but our lives as well, because you had become so dear to us." And, good friendships, good relationships do that. They endear us to one another. And obviously I love the outdoors, and I know Dale and Barb and Robin, and we all love the outdoors. And Memorial Day, some years was, I think the kids wanted to go camping maybe more than the parents. And, it was, they grew up doing it. I mean, we had the kids in those little carriers. That's what they slept in overnight when they were infants. So that they've known camping, and that happens to be Clayton's birthday is on Memorial Day weekend. So the cake, and Barb would always bring her whiskey, and we had lots of good stuff going on, lots of good camp food, all kinds of stuff. Kids, the kids to this day, the kids have calls together. They still have occasional calls. Clayton, Nicole, Nikki, and Caprina, they just have a group call because they look at each other as brother and sister. They're two different families, but they look at each other as brother and sister. Like Clayton could never marry Nikki or Caprina because they're sisters to him. That was just the relationship. And I know Dale and I never had any brothers. And that's the result of the friendship that we have. So, it's stuff like that for me means a lot. I look forward to it. They're great friends. It spends time. We've had a lot of fun. Really, it bonds you together.
I'm here. That Vince has always been more of a brother. You overcome adversity. You overcome whether it's cold like this last weekend or noisy neighbors also like this last weekend, and just rain. We were loading the van in the beginning of the typhoon that ripped up branches and had rain coming down sideways. And I thought, what in the world are we doing? And my kids and wife are like, it's the memories we're going to make. And we made memories. So we think of all the fun times that we've had together because it's important to us to do it. Times where it rained and we slid down this hill together and made a mudslide. And then we had to put a rope on there to climb back up out of the hill because our campsite was down in this little ditch area. Fun times where it was so hot that we filled up all the camping totes with water from the ice cold water from the well and sat in them. And so we had a contest who could sit in the coldest water the longest and stuff like that. Just fun times that you look back and the kids bring all these up and they're just like, rain or shine, cold, hot, we're going together. We're going to spend this time. You learn a lot about people playing games, and you learn a lot about people when you spend all that time together. So that's why it's important to us. We love it, and we love being together.
Yep.
Hey, Ben, yeah, thanks for sharing. I greatly appreciate that. And you guys are just a great example of that. Like, I just think there's always 1.5 million reasons not to do those things. You know what I mean? So this comes up, that comes up, whatever. Typhoon, that would have been enough for me. Like, I've camped in the rain. I hate camping in the rain. Anyway, so that's pretty awesome. But I think it's more to the point, guys, that in our relationships, are we building these types of memories? And even on a small group level, are we building these types of memories? Are we doing things together and just, building these kind of memories? And one of the things we were talking about doing, this was 2020, pre-pandemic, we were actually talking about, let's take a weekend or two and just not have church and just let every group just go do their thing, right? And then pandemic, and so that kind of went away. But the idea is, man, when we're just spending time together, great things happen. I think the very first weekend we were here, or one of the first things we did when we first got here was we did a big sleepover party over at the Snyder's house with the leadership team and just had fun. There wasn't a lot of lessons or anything. It was just good times. And so we need that. This last week was really, it actually felt like ministry a little bit to me. Like old school ministry, everything's ministry, you know what I mean? But we're trying to get more active with the young professionals, and we've got all these college students that are up for the summer. And so we just kind of heaped them all together, right? And we got the Reyeses in there and Tollivers in there and young people, and let's just go have fun. We went to the beach and it was cool. We went to Edgewater. I had no idea how busy that place was going to be. And then we got in line to go play some volleyball against some teams that knew how to play volleyball, and we didn't know how to play volleyball. But we won. Arnold, who's on vacation, he's not on this call right now, but he was amazing. He had like 10 straight serves in a row. Like, hey, we're doing okay. But we actually planned out a whole summer full of fun. We've got Indians games. We got all kinds of different things, something called Float the River. I don't know, but we're just going to go out. And really what we talked about is these are not Bible talks. These are not times to just like, okay, we're going to sit down and do a devotional. There's nothing wrong with any of that, obviously. But I'm like, honestly, guys, people know that we're Christians by our love for each other, by our unity, and by our fruit. That's what Jesus says. Fruit meaning like your righteousness, the outpouring of your life. That's what it's all about. And that's my encouragement for us tonight is let's just make some memories. I'm going to end on a very, very somber note. Super somber. We're just going to do it anyway. But I've been watching a lot of World War II documentaries. Norm had me watch one, and now I've watched like 5, and I'm into them, and there you go. The whole thing is fascinating. This last one I watched was extremely difficult, extremely difficult. It was strictly about the Holocaust and just how bad it was. And this particular one, I had no idea how much video of the Holocaust actually still exists to this day. And it is troubling. It goes from like, there's something about seeing it and seeing people move and being shot. It's unbelievable. But this particular documentary was about 5 different Hungarians, and they explained everything from how they were taken and then how they were lied to, and they thought they were going to this one spot, and they ended up in a concentration camp. And there was this older woman that was on it, but of course at the time, so she was a survivor of the Holocaust, but at the time, she was a young girl. And immediately when she gets off the train, there's 2 different ways you go. And she went to the right, and her parents went off to the left, and it didn't take her very long to realize they're dead. I'm never going to see them again because they didn't want the elderly people. But some of the younger people, I want to say she was 16 or 17 at the time, they wanted to put them to work. But right before like the end of it, the woman gives her daughter, the mom gives her daughter some kind of diamonds or rubies or something, and says, I want you to keep these, and if you ever escape, buy bread or something like that. But that was the last thing she got from her mother. And so when she kind of put it all, she tries to hide the rubies in her hand. And she starts quickly realizing they're going to find these rubies. And that's going to be a big problem. And she felt like, I can't let go of these rubies because it's like letting go of my mom. Like it's letting go of all those memories of who I am. And so she swallowed them because she didn't want the Germans to have those. And so sure enough, every time, sorry, it's getting a little graphic. Every time she goes to the restroom, wasn't much of a restroom. She goes to the latrine. She doesn't go in the latrine. She's waiting to pass those rubies. And finally she does. And she wipes them off and cleans them up. And I realize that's really, really gross. But it was so important to her on this documentary. It's like, no one's taking these because this is the memories. These are the memories that I have. These are the memories of my parents. This is the last thing they gave me. And no one's taken these things from me. And I believe she still had them to this day, which was really, really cool because it's, 60, 70 years later. What's the point? Memories, guys, memories. You can take a lot of stuff from us. You can't take our memories. And, let's just make sure, guys, as we're building our small groups and just building relationships in the church, even talking about all this discipling relationships, I really encourage you, just go out, make some great memories, And I realize it's still kind of COVID-y and it's not totally perfect, but into the small group leaders, I really encourage you, get your group away for a night and just go be, just go be together, build those memories. That's what the kingdom is all about. It's all about these relationships, and let's build some great memories. Amen. So what we're going to do, we're going to break into discussion groups. They probably won't be too terribly long, but I just have 2 simple questions for you. Question 1, I'm pulling it up right here. Question 1, what are some of your favorite memories you have of the brothers in the kingdom? And, Cleveland or wherever you're from, what is just some of the great memories that you have? Not like, oh yeah, we baptized this guy, not those kind of memories, but just fellowship. Like, man, I remember this trip. I remember, whatever. Let's just share some good old stories with each other because those are always fun. And then secondly, what are some memory making experience that you'd like to see happen in your group? And maybe you guys can brainstorm a little bit and try to make that happen, towards the latter part of the year or something like that. And let's build some great relationships. Amen. So that is what I got for us tonight. You guys are awesome.